Okay, so everyone's talking about going back to the moon. It's exciting, right? Rockets, astronauts.
Yeah, it definitely captures the imagination.
But I've been thinking more about the practical side. Like, how do we actually stay there, work there? You need deliveries, constant communication, the basic infrastructure.
Absolutely. It's not just about planting a flag this time.
And that's where this company, Intuitive Machines LUNR, trading under $10 right now, actually really kind of grabbed my attention. They seem focused on building that actual groundwork.
That's a great way to put it. We've looked at a whole bunch of stuff on them, and a pretty clear narrative is taking shape.
Okay.
So our mission today, essentially, is to dig into why people are starting to call them the FedEx plus AT&T of the moon. Sounds a bit much at first, maybe.
A little bit, yeah. FedEx and AT&T.
Right. But when you break down what they're doing, they're landers, they're moving to communications, and this future heavy lift stuff for bases, well, it starts to make a certain kind of sense.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So, getting to the moon seems like the first hurdle, their lander program. That's where they're really established already, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. They've carved out a major role through NASA's CLPS program, that's Commercial Lunar Payload Services.
CLPS, right. Heard a lot about that.
And the big thing is they've won more of these CLPS moon landing contracts than any other company. 4 missions locked in so far?
Yeah,
That's a huge vote of confidence from NASA.
4 missions, and they've actually, done it right. It's not just plans on paper.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Their Nova C lander, that was the first U.S. landing on the moon in, gosh, over 50 years. Just happened this year, 2024.
Wow. Okay. That is significant, more than just nostalgia, I guess.
Exactly. It gives them a massive advantage. Having actually done it, successfully landed, that builds incredible trust, especially with NASA. It shows they can deliver, literally.
Proof of concept, big check mark there.
Yeah.
And these landers, they're carrying actual stuff for NASA, not just test flights.
Oh, definitely not empty runs. Across these 4 missions, they're contracted to deliver something like over 20 different payloads.
20 payloads.
And it's important stuff. Key science instruments heading to the lunar South Pole. We know that area is critical, right? The whole water ice thing.
Right. Potential resource gold mine there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for you listening, the key thing here is LUNR isn't just saying they can do lunar delivery. They're kind of the leader right now, with NASA backing and a successful landing already under their belt.
Okay, so the FedEx part, getting things there, seems pretty well covered by the landers.
Mm-hmm.
But AT&T, that suggests something more continuous, like a service. Where does the communication piece fit in?
Ah, yes. This is where it gets, I think, really strategic. Also in 2024, NASA gave Intuitive Machines a sole source contract.
Sole source, meaning just them.
Just them. For lunar satellite communications using NASA's Near Space Network. Think about that. NASA looked around and basically said, you're the ones to build this critical comms link.
Wow, okay. That is a big deal. No competition needed, basically.
Pretty much. It effectively positions them as, well, the future ISP for the moon.
The moon's internet provider. Seriously.
That's the analogy people are using, yeah. They're setting up the essential comms network. And crucially, this isn't a one-off hardware delivery. It's a service contract.
Ah, recurring revenue.
Exactly. Potentially generating recurring revenue right out to 2034. And the pipeline value for this contract alone is estimated at $4.8 billion.
$4.8 billion.
Yep. So you connect the dots. That's a massive long-term opportunity. It's like the essential utility you need for anything else to happen on the moon, like your home internet, but, lunar.
Okay, that's huge potential stability.
Yeah.
Right, so FedEx covered with landers, AT&T with comms. But you mentioned building the lunar foundation. What's that about?
Right, so that ties into their next lander, which is currently in development. It's called Nova D.
Nova DD4. Bigger.
Pretty much. Think heavy class. While Nova C is great for, say, smaller science packages, Nova D is being designed for the really big, complex stuff.
Like what kind of stuff?
Things like large rovers, power systems, maybe even habitat modules down the line. The kind of gear you absolutely need if you're serious about setting up a long-term base, like under NASA's Artemis program.
Gotcha. So if Nova C is the delivery van, Nova D is the semi-truck.
That's a perfect analogy, yeah. And the info we looked at, it even kind of compares them to SpaceX for logistics capability.
Okay.
But it highlights the LUNR as maybe more focused, leaner, more agile in their approach. And the interesting part is, even as a smaller company, they're already winning these kinds of bids.
So they found a sweet spot.
Seems like it. They're finding a valuable niche. So for you listening, it's maybe not about them competing head-to-head with the giants on everything, but complementing them.
Right.
providing a specific crucial service.
That makes a lot of sense, focusing on that specific layer. Okay, this all sounds promising strategically, but
Hmm.
let's talk money. What does the financial picture look like? Growth, potential.
Right. The numbers are pretty eye-catching. In 2024, their year-over-year revenue growth was around 170%.
Whoa, okay, 170%.
Well, yeah, hitting about $228 million in sales. And the forecast looks strong, too. Management's guiding for $250 to $300 million in 2025.
Okay.
And analysts, they're projecting maybe closer to $480 million by 2026. If that plays out, you're looking at roughly an 82% compound annual growth rate.
82% CAGR,
I
that's
do.
significant growth. And this isn't just wishful thinking, right? They have contracts backing this up.
That's the key. As of Q3 2024, their contracted backlog stood at $316 million.
$316 million already booked.
Exactly. And remember, that figure doesn't even fully reflect that massive $4.8 billion communications pipeline yet.
Ah, right. So there's potentially a lot more already lined up beyond that backlog number.
Precisely. It gives you a sense of the future revenue that's sort of already on the horizon.
Okay, so with all that going on, the successful landing, the contracts, the growth, you'd think the stock would be flying high.
Yeah.
But you mentioned it's under $10. Does the valuation seem low?
That's a really interesting point for the analysis. Trading around $8, LUNR is valued at roughly 2 times its sales.
2 times sales. How does that compare?
Well, you look at peers, other space companies, maybe like Rocket Lab, for instance. They often trade in the range of 4 to 6 times sales.
Huh. So LUNR is trading at a discount compared to others, even with a successful moon landing.
It suggests that, yeah, it kind of implies the market maybe hasn't fully priced in their achievements and potential compared to some others in the sector.
Okay. So if the market does start recognizing that potential, what's the possible upside look like?
Well, the analysis we reviewed lays out a pretty compelling bull case. Some projections see the stock price hitting $30 or even higher by 2028.
$30 plus,
Hmm.
from under 10 now.
That's the potential upside being discussed, yeah. It's based on hitting those revenue growth targets we talked about, improving their profit margins as they scale up operations, and just the general momentum building in the whole space economy.
And this isn't just plucked out of thin air, right? There are models supporting this.
Right. The analysis mentioned various approaches, discounted cash flow, peer comps, looking at the total addressable market, and they generally point towards significant potential upside. One scenario, for instance, sees them hitting maybe $700 million in revenue by 2028. And if the whole lunar economy really takes off, maybe exceeding $10 billion annually like some predict.
Their slice of that pie could justify a much higher valuation. Makes sense.
Exactly.
Are there specific things coming up soon that could, push things forward, catalysts?
Definitely. There are a few key things to keep an eye on. Their next mission, IM-2, that's scheduled for Q1 2025.
Okay, another landing attempt.
Yep. Then there's any progress on NASA's crewed Artemis flights, which would increase demand for lunar services, potentially winning even more CLPS contracts.
Right.
And any news about landing actual infrastructure deals for that bigger Nova-D lander. Any of those could definitely give the stock a boost.
Gotcha. So for you listening, if the financials seem a bit dense, the main point is strong growth happening, big contracts landed, potential for much more, and maybe the current pricing doesn't fully reflect all that yet.
That sums it up pretty well. Demonstrating progress, but potentially still undervalued relative to the outlook.
Okay, so they're clearly building a real business here. Let's zoom out again. Strategically, how does this all fit together in the big picture of moon exploration? What's the long-term play here?
It really seems like their core strategy is to own that critical last mile of the lunar supply chain.
The last mile.
Yeah.
Meaning not the big rocket launch, but everything after.
Exactly. You have players like SpaceX focused on, bulk transport to lunar orbit, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Intuitive Machines seems focused on the specialized delivery from orbit to the surface and the essential infrastructure on the surface, like communications.
Okay.
So the strategy unfolds through those big contract wins, becoming that vital lunar ISP, developing the heavy lift Nova-D for base building, and underpinning it all with that strong financial growth.
It feels like they're trying to become indispensable, almost. Providing the services everyone else going to the moon will need.
That's a great way to think about it. The pick and shovel play analogy comes up a lot.
Ah, right. Like during the gold rush.
Exactly. The folks selling the picks and shovels often did better and more reliably than the prospectors searching for gold. LUNR is positioning itself to benefit from all the activity on the moon, no matter whose specific mission or project succeeds. They provide the enabling tools. the network.
They become a fundamental layer of the lunar economy.
Precisely. A foundational enabler.
Looking even further out, beyond current contracts, does the analysis suggest other potential avenues for them?
It does hint at future possibilities, yeah. Things like supporting potential lunar mining operations, providing the logistics or comms for that. Maybe even lunar data centers someday, who knows? Broader infrastructure services.
Data centers on the moon. Wow, okay.
It points to a lot of long-term optionality, right? Beyond just the initial landings and comms setup. So the core idea is maybe SpaceX is the highway, but Intuitive Machines is building the local roads, the power lines, the internet service, everything you need to actually live and work there.
Okay, that really clarifies their position. So let's wrap up this deep dive. If you had to boil it down, what are the absolute key takeaways about Intuitive Machines?
Okay, key takeaways. One, they've proven their tech with a successful moon landing Nova Sea works. Two, they've got major NASA contracts, especially for payload delivery and that crucial sole source communications deal. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Three, they're developing the next step, the heavy lift Nova D, positioning them for future base construction.
Mm-hmm.
Four, financially they're showing strong growth, have a solid backlog, and arguably the stock looks potentially undervalued compared to peers and future potential.
Okay, clear points. And back to our starting question, does that FedEx plus AT&T of the moon description actually hold up after digging in?
You know, based on everything we've looked at, I think the analogy holds up surprisingly well.
Yeah.
Yeah. The lander program, especially winning those CLPS bids and the successful landing, really makes them a key transportation provider. That's your FedEx part. And then the exclusive NASA comms contract.
Mm-hmm.
That clearly puts them on the path to being the primary communications infrastructure provider.
Yeah.
That's your AT&T. It fits.
It really does paint a picture of a company right at the forefront, building essential pieces. It makes you wonder, as we really start this new era of lunar activity, maybe even colonization, what other foundational layers are going to be needed?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah. Beyond transport and comms, what's next? Power, life support infrastructure, resource processing, and who are the companies, maybe ones we haven't even heard of yet, that might step up to build those? Getting there is one thing, but actually staying and thriving there, that's where the next wave of innovation and probably opportunity really lies. Makes you think.